Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for our 5th edition of the End-Health Conversations. Today, we focus on the impact of COVID-19 on the insurance industry, and we are very glad and honored to be joined by industry thought leaders who will be able to share with us the experience so far, what solutions lie for us, are available for us, and also what options we have going ahead even after this pandemic. Just as by way of reminder, the conversations will also be taking place on social media, so please feel free to follow us and send your questions, comments on our social media platforms. That's End-Health Kenya on Facebook and Twitter, and End-Health Financial Services on LinkedIn. Without further ado, I'd like for us to just get into the meat of the session, and I'll invite Mr. Raxit Soni, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Prudential Life Assurance Kenya. Mr. Raxit previously worked with Prudential UK for 6 years and Phoenix Life Limited UK for 2 years before joining Prudential Life Assurance in November 2014, where he was Head of Risk and Compliance in Kenya. In April 2016, he was promoted to Head of Risk and Compliance East Africa, and April 2019, he was promoted to Chief Executive Officer. It looks like April is a good month for you, Mr. Raxit. He holds a bachelor's degree of science, bachelor's honors in actuarial science from City University, UK. He's a qualified actuary, a fellow of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. He is actively involved in the development of actuarial profession in Kenya and is a council member of the Actuarial Society of Kenya. Mr. Raxit, over to you. Let me stop.
Great, thank you very much, Bansi, and good morning, everyone. As Bansi said, my name is Raxit Soni, and I've got a couple of slides which I'll take you through, especially around the impact of COVID on the insurance industry, and what the insurance industry is doing as a whole, and what Prudential is doing in Kenya. And yeah, we're going through interesting times, I have to say. When COVID or coronavirus was spreading in China in November and December, I don't think the world took too much when things hit home, and especially in Kenya, I think towards March. And I think for us in Kenya and as an industry, and not just the insurance industry, but all the businesses, I think they're interesting times to see how we navigate through this situation. A lot of work has been done by the government. For the HR professionals or whoever has joined this conference, you'll have seen that the government has announced some initiatives on tax cuts, corporation tax deductions, pay rates falling, so to help the economy and to help the people from the impact of this. So a lot of good work is being done, and a lot of work is being done by businesses as well. So it's interesting times, and as I talk through my presentations, I'll give you views in terms of what I think, what we are doing as a business, and what we're doing as an industry as a whole, the insurance industry. But I will share my slides first, and we tested this, so it should work. But let me just get this up. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
All right, great, perfect. Tech is working. Tech has to work during these times, so it's great. Thank you, guys. And I think just to give you a summary, the agenda in terms of what I'm going to talk about is, well, the definition of COVID, everyone knows it, so I wouldn't deliberate too much on that. But how has regulation changed for the insurance industry? Is COVID-19 insurable? That's the question, right? A lot of our clients are asking, and whether COVID-19 is insurable risk, how do we manage the effects of COVID-19? It has been deemed a pandemic. So yeah, I'll cover that. What is what is payable in if one is a COVID-19 victim, and what we are doing as Prudential, really. So, well, we all know what COVID-19 is. It's a family of the coronavirus, and well, it was meant to be a flu, but well, it seems to be a bit more stringent, a bit more strong strain of the flu. And as you've seen, a lot of sanitization, masks being distributed, everyone being asked to wear masks to prevent the disease. And it's interesting, it has been classified as a pandemic by the World Health Organization. It's spread very quickly over the past couple of months, not just in Kenya, but globally. And we've seen the impact of that. If you on the news in the US, for example, we're hitting a million, towards a million, the UK, Europe, Spain, Italy. I think those were the hard hit countries. And we have been in Africa and in Kenya. It's the numbers are not as significant as they were in Europe, but we wait and see as the testing increases. But I'm not an expert, but let's see how it plays out. But we need to most definitely take an active role in preventing the spread and see what we can do for the economy to make sure that we're not as hard hit as other countries have been. And I think, has regulation changed? Yeah, I wouldn't say a change in regulation per se, but there have been guidelines by the Insurance Regulatory Authority in terms of what insurers need to do. And the emphasis has been on customer protection, right? How are we communicating with our customers during this time? How are we supporting them? Most of our policies, insurance policies in Prudential Kenya, and for a lot of other insurers, are individual life policies where premiums are paid monthly. So how do we perhaps allow clients to defer payment? So maybe if they can't pay in the next month, next 2 months, how do we allow for deferral of payment without the policy lapsing or becoming paid up? Sorry, I know I'm using some jargon here. Apologies for that, so that's what we are doing. How do we settle claims? How quickly are we settling claims? There's a process in terms of claims payments. Do we have the right documentation? What kind of documentation can we say that we are happy to receive this later on, but we'll pay the claim, right? So those kind of measures are being taken by insurers. As you can see, flexible premium payments allowing for delays in claims notification. And I think also revision of the IRS told insurers that you can't revise your existing policy terms and conditions because of COVID. That's not an excuse. And I'm pretty sure none of the insurers have done it. Life insurers, Prudential Life companies, but none of the life insurers have done it. And so has Prudential, we haven't done it. So there has been a lot of emphasis on customer protection. I think the other thing that insurers need to be careful about or watch out during pandemics is when we are planning for any claim payments that we need to make or the amount of reserves that we hold, pandemics is usually not something we plan for. And what happens is in such situations where there's a pandemic, claims would rise, a lot more claims would be paid. So there has been a focus from the regulatory authority to make sure that all insurers are solvent, right? So that the capital strain is not significant. What does that mean? It could mean that insurers may need to prop up their capital. We've got new regulation coming in July around risk-based capital, where insurers need to have more capital. So I think that speeds up the process. That process of 1st June is probably brought forward now. So we need to make sure that we've got enough capital to make sure that the claims that we pay are paid on time and the insurer is solvent. So the IRA has been focusing on that. A lot of actuarial work going on behind the scenes to provide the regulatory authority with the comfort that insurers are going to be solvent. I think the key thing has been business continuity, right? Uh, how do we make sure as people work from home, people can't travel to work, how do we make sure that the business keeps on running? It has been interesting, and for Prudential especially, where we've got most of our staff work from home, and there's normally a tendency of business continuity where you've tested your business continuity process, but it doesn't really get activated until such a situation happens, which doesn't happen often. And it has been interesting for most companies, and for us as well, uh, where most of our staff are working from home now. So how do we give them connectivity? Right? How are they productive? How do we make them? How do we support them? How do we provide? I think it's provide simple things like airtime, data bundles to have connectivity. So it's quite interesting. So business continuity has been a key focus for us and a lot of insurers in the market, and not just insurance, but businesses as well, banks, if you may, financial institutions. So the regulator as well has requested for the business continuity plan. So those are guidelines that have been issued by the regulator to make sure that everything runs as smoothly as it can, given the current circumstances. But it's interesting for us. IT, information technology is core at our heart. We try to automate quite a lot of stuff, a lot of our work we do. And during plans, when the annual planning exercise is done, you're like, okay, we'll do this in October or November. But because of COVID-19, where tech has become the forefront, where we're having a Zoom webinar now, a lot of our plans on IT investment have also accelerated. And I'm sure that's the same across other companies. So that has been interesting during this time. Yeah, and is COVID-19 insurable? That is a question we get from our clients, and the general public as well. As I said, it's been defined as a pandemic, and a lot of insurance contracts and treaties usually have exclusions around pandemics, and that goes to my point earlier, because that's not planned for, right? And because it's not planned for, it can have a capital strain on insurers. But a lot of insurance policies, I know that in Kenya, I know for Prudential, we don't have an exclusion on pandemics. So if someone claims for a death benefit, which is unfortunately due to COVID, the claim would be payable. So it really depends on the cover and the terms and conditions of the policy that the client has taken. And yeah, that's really the crux of it. TNCs, I know a lot of people don't like reading them, and when such situations happen, that's when they come about. But it's important to just make sure that all clients and customers know what they're covered for, what they're not covered for, so they can make the right decisions for themselves. Yeah, how do we plan? How do we plan and manage pandemics? This has been an interesting one, especially because it's new to everyone. It's new to everyone. The insurance sector, like I said, we've got guidelines by the regulator. We're carrying out risk assessments, a lot of actual crunching being done in the background to see whether companies are solvent, what the impact is going to be, how does it change your future plans. How are you going to change your investment in technology going forward? I'm sure once we come out of COVID, the workplace, the work environment will change. A lot more tech will be used. Perhaps not a lot more face-to-face meetings, but Zoom meetings, webinars, a lot more requests from people working from home, I suppose. So on the HR front, perhaps companies will need to start thinking about policies around the HR policies in terms of how do we accommodate for working from home for staff. it's an interesting one. For us, like I said, we're doing risk assessments to see what the financial losses perhaps could be, and a lot of education, awareness, and communication. I think there has been, as you've seen in the media and on social media, there has been a lot of talk about how to stay safe, how to stay informed, how do us as organizations make sure that our staff are always cared for. One of the things is working from home. If they're traveling to work, how do we make sure that they're not exposed to COVID-19? So a lot of education, awareness, and communication is happening. I'm sure across all the businesses. It's just not just as Prudential Kenya. On business enterprises, I think, as I've spoken before about business continuity, I think plans need to be developed, but more critically now, while a plan is developed, rigorous testing on the plan to make sure that it works. For some businesses, they might have had plans on paper which are not tested, but now they've had to activate plans on business continuity. So it's interesting. I think the key messages or the key learning, if you may, is that people need to really test all their BCP plans regularly to make sure that they can be activated within a couple of hours or a couple of days. So that's critical. Business impact analysis, carry this out periodically. And I think as we also, and it's around the processes on businesses, right? As we are working more online, your normal processes that staff are following or you follow when people are at work change. Approvals, for example, change. You've got e-approvals now. There's some processes that need to change. So how do you quickly change your process documents as well to make sure that these processes are now being followed? How are they communicated to staff? How do you train staff on new processes? So a lot of training, a lot of regular training on new processes that needs to be done for staff and stakeholders as well, not just staff, all your customers, clients. How do you communicate to them that if you're making a claim, you can reach out to us through WhatsApp or an email? These are WhatsApp numbers. How quickly can we set up these alternative digital communication channels? How quickly can those be done? So I think it's a full learning. It's a learning experience for all the businesses, not just the insurance sector, but all the businesses during this time, especially around how do we use tech. I think for individuals, as all individuals have seen in the media, a lot in the media about staying safe, proper hygiene, make sure that you're not exposing yourself unnecessarily. And I think for me, critically, insurance historically has been, it's individual life insurance has been a difficult sale. But I think this events like these really show that there is a need for insurance. Why not buy insurance? We've seen on the financial markets globally, financial markets took a hit. People are investing in equities, bonds. Their returns have gone negative, right? Fixed deposit rates are going down in Kenya. So why not invest in insurance? It's a safer avenue. You get protection, and don't have any exclusions for pandemics, you're covered. So again, it's a good avenue. Insurance now becomes a good avenue for long-term savings during this uncertain time. So it's quite important that as insurers, we are communicating with our clients and stakeholders the need for insurance and how it protects you from these situations. So what can you claim for? If policies don't have any exclusions under group life business, someone unfortunately dies due to COVID, a benefit is payable. And also if there's a temporary disability, the benefit is payable. So under group life, if there are no exclusions, I think if there are no exclusions, it's just another claim event. So benefits are paid. Last expense covers, again, most of these insurances, if there is no exclusions, the policy should run as it is. So it's just another claim event, which is, so if there's an unfortunate death or disability, that the benefit would be payable. Medical insurance, I think this one, this again would reimburse all the expenses incurred in seeking treatment from COVID at the hospital. And yeah, so those are the insurance benefits payable if there are no exclusions. Again, policies are different. Different insurers have different policies. Provided that there is no exclusion for pandemics, any claim event resulting from COVID should be payable. Well, I think very quickly, I'm conscious of time here. If you're a COVID-19 victim and you're a Prudential customer, so when the restrictions in Kenya began, we announced that for all our customers, our policies don't have any exclusions for COVID-19. So if depending on the policy you've taken out, there's a death cover. So if unfortunately someone dies due to COVID, we would pay a temporary and total disability cover, hospitalization cover as well. We've got a HospiCash product where you pay 2,500 a day if someone is hospitalized due to COVID for a maximum of 30 days. And interestingly, we're doubling that benefit if they're unfortunately put in intensive care. And this benefit can be paid through a lump sum or a daily benefit. We've got a diagnosis cover as well. So we're paying all our customers and the wider public as well. If they register on our website, we'll give them a 10,000 shillings diagnosis cover. And for our existing customers, we've announced a quarantine cover. So if you're quarantined due to COVID-19 in one of the government facilities, we would pay you a benefit of 2,500 shillings per day for every day of being in quarantine. I think there is a note on the slide that we're a life company, so we don't provide medical insurance. So really our products don't reimburse for any medical claims or expenses. And as I said, what we did, so what we're doing for COVID-19 is we've got a campaign, Pru Cares, and it's a free cover that we're offering, and it provides protection to our customers and members of the public. And these are tough times. How do we stand with our customers? How do we stand with our wider community? Pru Cares is what talks to it. Again, that's just a slide on Pru Cares. You'll see that on our social media pages. And this is just a summary, a very quick summary of the benefits. So we provide a 10,000 shillings diagnosis benefit if you're diagnosed with COVID-19, which is available to Prudential customers and members of the general public as well, if you register on our website. Quarantine benefit, as I talked about earlier, we're paying 2,500 a day if you're quarantined in a government facility, which is available only to existing Prudential customers. So to Prudential customers. And hospitalization benefit, again, this is available to Prudential customers, where, as I said, we're paying 2,500 shillings a day if they're in a general ward and 5,000 if they're in ICU. And these benefits are at no additional cost to all our customers. So we just try to see how, as insurers, we can perhaps help in this difficult situation. I think that is it from me. I'm happy for any questions. Sorry if I've overrun, but yeah.
No, it's okay, Mr. Raxit, and it was very interesting to hear the steps you've taken as a company to adjust and to respond to the COVID-19. I'd ask the participants, if you have any questions for Mr. Raxit, please just raise your hand. Use the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen, and then I'll allow you to talk. I see a hand from, 1 second, I see there are 2 hands. Let me unmute you. Eric Mudomi, I've unmuted your speaker, and there's someone using a Galaxy 5. You may go ahead and ask your questions. Eric, can you hear us?
For this opportunity. Mr. Raxit, thank you for that. Was quite. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Eric, I can hear you.
All right. Mr. Thank you very much for that. The question goes, you're using or you're advising them to use to be able to ensure continuity in business. As an agent myself, I'm struggling, and I was wondering whether there's some insights on how we can be able to conduct business in this new environment. People still need insurance, but now engaging with clients is quite an uphill task. What would your advice be?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric. Let's take one more question. The person with the Galaxy S5, you'd raised your hand and I've unmuted your speaker.
Hello. Hello.
You?
Hello.
Your name, please?
Peter.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Peter.
Okay. Go ahead.
How are you?
Well, thank you, Peter.
My question goes to Soni.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing to those members who are already insured, but they cannot, they are not able to pay the premium because of loss of job, or they are not able to pay those premiums monthly as required? Are they going to benefit? What are they doing to those kind of people?
All right. Thank you, Peter. Mr. Raxit, if you may answer those two questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Peter, for your questions. I'll tackle. I'll answer Eric's question first. Eric, interesting on the agents. It is a difficult time. You're right. Clients are not willing to meet people face to face, and what are we doing for our agents? I think it's interesting. We are enabling our agents on tech. I think that's what the trend has been. So if you may Zoom, Microsoft Team meetings, so we are encouraging our agents to perhaps have more conversations using tech. So this is we've provided our agents with airtime and data bundles during this time, so they can use perhaps WhatsApp calls, face-to-face videos on WhatsApp to speak to their clients. The other thing we're trying to do, or what we've done, is also have digital application forms, right? So a agent can speak to a client and then send them a digital application form, which they can fill out and send back to us, and then we follow the underwriting process. So it's tough times, but a lot more using of tech to engage with customers, clients, and agents as well. Most of our training now for agents, as you know, we can't have more than 10, 15 people in a room. We are having virtual training using Microsoft Teams and Zoom. We're using Google Forms, Microsoft Forms to send refreshers to agents, get them to complete product refreshers, product training. So as I said, a lot more tech being used, and that's how we are trying to engage our agents and also enable them to speak to customers.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Raxit. And I'd urge any other participant, if you have your question, due to time constraints, I'll request you to have it down on the Q&A platform, and we'll endeavor to answer as many as possible before we end this webinar. So just write it down under Q&A and we'll answer it. I'll hand over to my colleague Lydia briefly.
Should I answer Peter's question, or should I?
Oh, sorry, the second question. Yes, please go ahead before we move on.
I'll be quick. Peter, sorry, I'll be quick. If I don't answer it in detail, please do reach out to me. You'll have my contact details after. But yeah, what are we doing for our customers? As I said before, the regulatory authority has asked all insurers to think about grace periods and premium holidays for customers. So where a customer reaches out to us and tells us that they can't pay a premium, we are allowing them to defer. Our policies already have a grace period of 3 months, right? So there's those 3 months. And if a customer does come and tell us that they can't pay for another 3 months, we would be happy to defer that payment. It's not, again, it's not a waiver program, but defer that payment so the policy doesn't lapse or become paid up. So the benefits would still continue as they were. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Raxit. And it is really interesting to hear what you're doing as Prudential. And also, I think the best thing, what I noted that you don't have an exclusion on pandemics is excellent, especially in this time. And as you mentioned, we normally don't look at the terms and conditions. So I guess this is the time when we are starting to read up on that. So thank you so much for the insightful presentation. If you have any more questions for Mr. Raxit, just put it down on the Q&A and we'll get to answer. We'll also share this presentation and the video recording and his contacts with you so that you're able to reach out to him later on for more information if you need it. So thank you. Lydia, I'll hand over to you.
Okay. Good morning. We wish to thank our audience for making time to be here. And I have some pretty good news. We have airtime up for grabs. And so this is how it's going to work. I'm going to ask a question, and the first 3 people to answer to raise their hand on the chat box and answer it correctly will get the talk time. So here's the question. If I were you, I'd have my pointer on the raise hand button already. And the panelists are not allowed to participate. So the first question I'm going to ask is this. For how many years has N-Wealth been in operation? For how many years has N-Wealth been in operation? Okay, I have 3 hands already. 4.
Okay, I see John Sita was the first one, and then Vivian, Bore, and Felista. I see a colleague has raised their hand. I don't think they're allowed to. Are they allowed to participate?
No.
All right, so Oscar, you're disqualified. So I've allowed John, Vivian, and Felista. They were the first 3. Please unmute your speakers and answer.
Yeah.
10 years. 10 years.
10 years from Mr. Sitawa, 10 years from Felista. What about Vivian?
I would have thought it's 4 years. 2016?
No, actually, that is not correct. I'll allow more people to speak until you get a correct answer. Barusei, William, and Evans Kaptum.
8 years.
I'll go 10 years.
10 years, 8 years, not correct.
10.
Liam Wangi, and who else? Lynette Okiro.
9 years.
10 years.
9 years, that's the correct answer, 9 years. We started our operations in February 2011, which makes it effectively 9 years as of now. So the correct answers are from Lynette Okiro and Lydia, if I'm not wrong. Please, on the chat box, just send me your number and we will get in touch with you and share your gift. Congratulations. And thank you all for participating. Lydia, I hope you'll have more questions.
Yes, I have after the second speaker.
All right.
Right here. So,
all right,
yeah.
Great. Thanks, Lydia.
Okay.
So, Delia. Salam.
Please mute your speakers for the people who were hearing some background noise. That's Kiptum. All right, done. Our next speaker is Mr. Chris Ochola. Chris is Head of Business Development at Metropolitan Cannon Assurance Limited. He's facilitated product development over the years and creating solutions. So we'll be very keen to hear what solutions you have for us, especially at this time during the pandemic. He's passionate about bridging the gap between client needs and the solutions offered by life insurance. Chris is a family man and a huge sports fan. So Chris, I'll hand over to you. I'm sure now that sports were suspended for a while, life must have been difficult, but you're happy things seem to be coming back to normal. So please go ahead, you may share your screen.
Okay, thank you, Bansi. Good morning, fellow panelists and audience. of course, as you've heard, I'm a huge sports fan, so I've had a lot of time to do a lot of research and study in the meantime to just figure out how we can all fight this through our beloved industry, that is insurance. So I'll just take you through very few items that I had prepared. I think Raxit has spoken about a majority of the items that were intended to talk about, so possibly we'll be able to save some time. I'll talk about the insurance solutions covering the pandemic quite briefly, then talk about the insurance response, especially to the COVID claims. Again, Raxit has insinuated a lot on that. And finally, I'll do the financial impact of the industry in this short time that we have experienced the pandemic. So far, in the past, I think for those who remember Ebola, I think it was one of the greatest items that we had gone through. It affected especially the health sector in totality, but as you have seen, it touched on other classes of insurance. If I talk about education, child protection, commerce, transportation, all various areas of various industries. And when I bring it closer to COVID-19, most of the BCPs or the business continuity plans have been activated by most companies. We all know about the government directives, so we have had to apply this. This talks about social distancing, personal hygiene, washing of hands, sanitizing, and so on and so forth. Minimum distance has led to most companies, people working from home, and certain industries have been highly affected by the financial production, which has led to certain measures such as pay cuts, retrenchments, unpaid leave, and so on and so forth. So coming up with insurance solutions for a pandemic is not the easiest thing because it's unplanned for, and it can actually cause a catastrophe. So when you actually activate your catastrophe clause as per your treaties, it is not a good place to be. So as we've talked about, the health insurance, I think, is the first class of insurances that was hit hard. Currently, locally, I think this has been handled by the government, where they have come up with certain facilities for people to be aided on checking on the pandemic. So the health insurance industry, actually globally, most of them have pandemics and epidemics as exclusions. So far, currently, they have not really been activated because the government is currently tasked or is currently handling that item. However, the life insurance class of insurance is actually has come to light, and the regulator has actually given certain directives that insurers have responded to find out or figure out how to manage the situation in the event of, unfortunately, death, disability, or critical illness. Talked about the health insurance reacting to the treatments. So this will possibly see with time, depending on how well the government manages this situation. But through ACI, the Association of Kenyan Insurers, and the regulator IRA, life insurance has taken a customer-centric position. This is just to protect the client in all areas in the unfortunate event of death, disability, or critical illness. So I think a majority of the companies in the industry have waived this exclusion if they had it in their policy wording, or they have confirmed to the regulator that the position is that such claims will be payable, and I can confirm that Metropolitan Cannon is of the same view, that they'll settle such claims. It is important, again, to clarify with your provider that they're covering any ailments, especially in the life insurance aspect, be it individual life, or you're covered under a group, or your employer through the group life policies. So in terms of the claims, as Raxit had also insinuated, the guidelines were released sometime in April for our consideration. I saw a majority of the insurance companies responded positively. Some of the guidelines that the regulator talked about, if I just might speak of a few that are touching on claims, are that death benefits should be settled expeditiously, even when there's lack or delayed response in terms of providing the required documentation. That is usually quite a challenge in the industry, to provide all the documentation that is required. So there's an insinuation that this should be settled expeditiously. There should be no rejection of claims due to delayed reporting. Most of these death benefits have a certain time period in which you're meant to report a claim, or due to challenges due to the current government directives. You could have a challenge of responding, maybe possibly due to the lockdowns. So this kind of requirements need to be waived at the moment. Insurers should submit to the authority their BCP plans, so that the authority can be sure that the insurance companies are actually operating at almost an optimum level. There should be a lot of proactivity and clear communication in policy coverage to confirm whether these exclusions on pandemics are included in your policy or not. There should be no introduction of new exclusions of change in the current terms, unless you get precise approval from the authority. This is just to safeguard the clients who already have certain terms and conditions in place. Raxit talked about the grace period on monthly premium payments, deferral or payment of renewal premiums, especially for corporate solutions, should be considered, and premium holidays for payments in premiums, or actually activate an installment plan. It needs to be understood, of course, that as much as this is a global pandemic and we are being customer-centric, of course, the insurance companies also have to remain afloat, and in their operations, being able to pay for claims, they need to find a concise balance. When they are providing these holidays, they should also be able to deal with their responsibilities of settling the claims. So this needs to be looked at, and from an insurance company level, in your response to the regulator, this should have been looked up. Of course, based on these guidelines, it's essential that the insurance companies also speak to their insurers who assist them in claims payment, to be on the same page, so that you can provide the peace of mind to the client who's at the final end of the product. I'll briefly talk about the financial impact of COVID. It's both positive and negative. Unfortunately, majority is negative. So I think, as we talked about, pricing of something that is completely unplanned is a bit difficult. That is why the health insurance class of insurance is finding it difficult to include this in their policies. But of course, from a life perspective, it's more sober to do so. As the economy has been hit hard in various industries, at least the insurance industry is still afloat. If you look at the transport sector, especially air for passengers, has been hit very hard, but that affects, or a trickle-down effect to a majority of other items. So it is appropriate to put in the measures to reduce the transfer of the risk or the losses, the terms of the increase. So when I talk about the positive impact, maybe it starts with retention of business. Maybe due to the government directive of social distancing, a majority of the clients, especially the private sector, have chosen to renew with their current service providers. This is possibly to avoid the interaction of going into the bidding process. If I look at the public sector, the PPRA, the authority, has actually given a directive that they need to reduce their procurement activities. So actually, that directive can affect a company both positively or negatively. If you had a strategy to grow, or of course you cannot ignore the biggest, the government, who actually has the biggest covers. If I look at the corporate sector, if you want to grow with that kind of speed, you might have to look at that as a strategy. So if since July is usually the biggest month for this could affect a company negatively. But at the same time, if you're holding such covers in the past, renewal is almost automatic. So it is a positive for such companies. There's been the small fact of the fear factor, where certain clients, due to the uncertainty of the future, they have been settling their premiums in advance. If they're monthly premiums, they've been paying maybe 3 or 6 months in advance, just to view the uncertainty. So that again will boost the industry. But again, that same point can be looked at in another way. For those who are asking for premium holidays, which will definitely be granted, this might affect you negatively. A few of the negative impacts, lack of new business, I think I talked about that. There's the interruption of claims, business interruption claims. If I look at the life industry, there's some value adds that are included in the covers, corporate covers especially, and the credit life covers. We look at redundancy or retrenchment. So if you have this embedded in your cover, and unfortunately the financial impact for your employer is to reduce staff through redundancy or retrenchment, the claims will be payable, so the expenses to the insurance industry will increase. There's rates to the economy, interest rates are being driven, and this has also impacted the increase in the credit risk exposure. So financials are impacted negatively because majority of insurance companies, due to the pooling of funds, they leverage on the investment income, which also assists them in claim settlement and the likes. So this impacts the financials directly and negatively. Travel insurance has almost come at a standstill, especially for air travel, because most countries globally have frozen air travel. So this line of income has actually been more or less died down. I don't know if I was too fast. I think most of the things I'd mentioned were talked about by Raxit. I'll take this opportunity to take any questions so that we can save on the time.
Thank you, Chris. If there's anyone with a question, if you may please raise your hand, use the raise hand function to ask your question, or the Q&A, and I'll read it out. Mm-hmm. All right, as I see no hands raised, oh, actually there are 2 hands raised, sorry. Felicia and Vivian Bore, I'll allow you to speak. Please unmute your speakers. Felicia McKinney and Vivian Bore.
Thank you for that good presentation. I think we are learning quite a bit what the insurance industry is doing. But I'm just
Felicia,
asking.
can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can't hear me?
We can hear you, Felicia.
Okay. Now my question is, normally with the insurance, before one is paid, there are many questions you follow up on, So I don't know whether now you are concerned how somebody is infected, whether they were actually obeying the regulations that have been provided by the Ministry of Health, and whether that is an issue. I wanted to know, and what are the threshold for payments that you have for somebody to actually qualify to be paid.
Okay, thank you. Vivian?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't know if Chris covered it as he spoke during the presentation, but I realized that Prudential they called Prudential Insurance, have come up with what they're calling PruCares, which covers the COVID-19. I don't know if Metropolitan Cannon does something similar, and whether you've come up with some solution as well.
All right. Thank you, Vivian, for your question. And Chris, I have one more question for you. An attendee asks, what part of business are you seeing as being most resilient in the current environment, given what you shared about what is happening in the business environment? So if you may please answer those three questions, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. I'll start with the question by Felista. In terms of the government directive to stay safe, I think that, as I mentioned, is being handled by the government. So when a claim is activated, and if I might be specific to life insurance, and we are talking about either death benefit, critical illness, or disability that is caused either directly or indirectly by the pandemic, I can confirm that the claim will be payable irrespective of whether the individual was following the directives, because unfortunately at this point, what we are taking care of is the need. So if you are, whether you are following the directive or not, the claim will be payable fully, and I believe by a majority of the life insurance industry. At this point, there will probably not be those kind of investigations to confirm whether you are following the directives. But you see, at that point, the fact that you have been diagnosed with the pandemic, and it is the reason why you actually lodging the claim, I can confirm that the claim will be payable. If I can move on to Vivian's question about PruCares. As I'd mentioned, I confirm that Metropolitan Cannon is one of the companies that is not putting the pandemic as an exclusion. So if you have especially a corporate cover with us, we confirm that all those kind of claims are payable. And in terms of providing a new product for this, especially on the individual life area, we are still in the works on seeing the best way to do it. We confirm that we are aware Prudential was the pioneer of this, and it's working well for them. So since we have the same kind of goal of being customer-centric, we are going the same route, but we're trying to do it a bit differently, but ultimately take care of the customer's interest. So I can confirm currently the product is not finalized, but we're in the process of coming up with one. Finally, on the business resilience in the industry, just to reiterate, as Raxit was talking about tech, personally, this is a personal view. I believe that the digital world will benefit the most from this pandemic due to government directives, due to social distancing and the likes, due to people working from home, so they need to be facilitated. That is through Wi-Fi or bundles and the likes. There has been a boost in the digital world. Locally, if you look at Safaricom and Zuku, they're already giving certain offers of you can pay half for a certain package. So that already shows that from a business perspective, they stand to gain the most. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. I don't know whether Mr. Soni wants to add on to this. I see you've unmuted your.
Oh, did I? No, nothing
Okay.
else. Nothing else. Thank you, Chris. I think those were fine. The tech industry is definitely going to come out of this strong because of, as Chris said, a lot more working from home, having Zoom meetings, Wi-Fi bundles, airtime, which you're giving away, which is great. So yeah, there is the tech industry. But I think whilst we're looking at the tech industry, most of these revivals historically, the insurance industry has been at the forefront of these revivals from these pandemics. And I'm pretty sure that the insurance industry in Kenya too, whilst they're
Mhm.
He's got a ton.
Okay. Is it done? Okay. Mm. Hi, thank you. I think I'll allow Lydia to go ahead with the next, please.
Okay. So I have not received the contacts for the people who got round 1 right, and we are literally itching to give you talk time. So I'm going to go to round 2. When you get the question right, just be sure to drop your contact in the panelist chat box and you will get your talk time right away. So question number 2, in how many countries is N-Wealth operational? And if you get that right, I need you to name all the countries that we are operational in.
Okay,
Yeah.
the first 3 responses were from Charlene, Davis, and Lillian Asienya. I've allowed the 3 of you to talk. Charlene, Davis, and Lillian.
Good morning.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Morning.
Yeah, this is Shalene. I'd like to try out the question.
Yes.
Is it in 3 countries, Kenya, Uganda, and Mauritius?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your answer. Lillian?
Yes, the same 3, Kenya, Uganda, and Mauritius.
All right. And Davis?
Those are 3, Kenya, Uganda, Mauritius.
Okay.
Okay.
It
Thank
looks
you
like
so much.
yes, the answers are correct. I guess if you didn't know, then Charlene gave you a Kenya. So the 3 of you, if you please come chat us on the chat box, give us your number, and as Lydia says, she's itching to send you some talk time. Thank you for participating.
Okay.
Thanks, Lydia.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move over to our next presenter. We have Miss Miriam Wambui. Miriam is a founder and executive director, Scope and Impact Limited. She leads the People, Strategy and Results Division for East Africa region. She's an accomplished human resource and business leader who is recognized for delivering results and solutions, driving change in complex and dynamic environments, and developing high performance teams. Miriam spends her time helping organizations implement their strategies successfully and realize their full potential. Welcome, Miriam.
Thank you, Bansi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me, Bansi?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. I think my conversation this morning will be pretty quick. I bet I have under 10 minutes going by the timing that you had given us. Allow me to share the screen has it come on?
Not yet.
Okay. Has that worked?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. I would like to add something to that introduction that Bansi has given. So I've had a lot of speakers, the speakers ahead of me, and in other webinars that I have participated in, really talk about the technology space that is going to be different going forward. And just to add to that, I'd like you to know that Scope and Impact has indeed launched a digital solution for HR practitioners and for businesses as well that would help employers and employees engage in a more friendly way, more flexible way, So it doesn't matter where you are located, whether you're working from home or you're working from the office, that solution helps you interact well with your employees. And moving on to my comment about some of the things I've had Chris and Raxit talk about. I think one of the things that I would like to encourage insurers to do, myself having worked in the insurance industry for many, many years, is to enlarge the terms and condition print. I think it needs to be font 16 as opposed to 8. So if you would take that as a recommendation, I don't think a lot of us read terms and conditions. I think they should also be put up on billboards so that we all get to acquaint ourselves, because a lot of times we go to make claims and that's when we discover, oh, we didn't read a certain clause, and then it turns out that the font was too small for us to read. So moving on to my conversation this morning, I've been asked to speak about insurance and rewards, employee rewards specifically, and what are the employer opportunities that we see in there. Now, being a HR practitioner and a business leader, I think this is one of the things that I'm seeing as a very huge opportunity, especially for insurance. And the reason why I have picked out on insurance is because insurance is feared and respected in equal measure. I think it's one of that space in Kenya and in Africa in general where insurance seems like a black box. People don't know what goes on in there. This is a very good opportunity for us to shine, for us to come out and really open up and show people that really there's nothing that we are hiding, and that, you know what, we can be flexible and we can respond to situations such as the ones that we are going through now with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I liked the fact that Prudential has come up with a product that takes care of, I didn't even know this, so thank you for telling us that you do take care of people who are quarantined. That is quite unique. I haven't had anybody else talk about that. So moving on, I'd like us to just look at this picture. Now, rewards. So I do know that a lot of us use the term reward and benefit interchangeably. Actually, we think it's the same thing. Things are different. Benefit is just like the name suggests, is benefit is something that you're given as an advantage. And so in most situations as an employer, we give benefits and we give them across board. So everybody gets to enjoy those benefits. But rewards are things that we do, or employers would do, that would make the space of employment a little bit more attractive and competitive. So it means that you get a reward for doing something, like that cat right on your desktop now suggests, I got this mouse, where is my reward? So it means there's something you have done, and therefore you are looking to be rewarded for whatever you have done. So it could be exceptional performance, it could be exceptional behavior, and so you are expecting to be rewarded. It's important that we create that context before we move into the next conversation. And I'm hoping that Bansi, you can stop me if I go beyond my time.
All right.
Now, when we are thinking about reward as the insurance providers, I have thought about it in two ways. Insurance being an employer, because indeed the insurance world is a big employer in Kenya, but also as a service provider to a lot of employers out there who have got employees who are thinking about reward. So your reward agenda, you really, really need to think about what it is that you want to achieve with that. And very quickly, I'd like us to look at these pictures and just get to understand them. Now, when we speak about reward, there are two things that we aim to address from a HR point of view. These two things are, one, the heart. The left side of the circle is a red heart, which really talks about the feeling of the heart and matters of the heart. And then the right side of the circle talks about the brain. So the things that excite us, the things that we think about, the things that make us feel like we have status or we have arrived, so to speak. So when you're thinking about your reward agenda, whether you're an employer in the insurance space or you're offering insurance as a service to other employers out there who have employees, you really need to think through these two things and don't leave out any one of them, because if you address one and not the other, you'll always hear employees saying they're not satisfied, they're not happy, and they're always on the move looking for the employer who is going to provide these two things combined. Now let's look at the heart agenda. Very quickly, I'd like us to go through what it really means to address matters of the heart. And I dare to say that this is the one that is normally left out. In fact, a lot of employers, including insurance, don't think about it. In fact, if you look at how employee benefits have been crafted, they rarely think about matters of the heart. They think more of the extrinsic side, which is more the brain side, and we will see how the brain side operates more than the heart side. So for you to achieve this agenda, there are 4 things that I encourage that we really think about. Number 1 is sense of meaningfulness. How do we create benefits, or how do we create rewards inside the insurance space that are meaningful to our employees? Now, what is meaningful to an employee? What is meaningful to an employee could be family, or it could be the fact that they're able to remain flexible, the flexibility of working. So they can either work from the office or working from home. And there are very many other examples I can give around that. But meaningfulness is something, it's a matter of the heart. It is one of those things that people say, if my employer is thinking about me this way, then this is an employer that I would like to stay with for a longer time. Number 2 is that the sense of choice is a matter of the heart. And when I speak about choice, I'm thinking about providing a self-service portal, even if it's in your reward space. Think about how you can provide a sense of choice, a self-service portal where employees can be able to choose and say, okay, for me, what works is that I would like maybe some Wi-Fi paid for me. Or for me, what works is that I would like some airtime. I have had in this conversation that we have been given airtime, people who answer questions correctly. So giving people that choice, it really speaks to their heart and they want to stick with you. It's actually one of the ways to make your employees want to go the extra mile. And the third thing is sense of competence. Now, I know this one is normally left out, and I don't even think that an insurance product has been designed and sold to us as employers in a manner that we can be able to sell it to our employees that suggests that, you know what, in terms of your reward, we want you to do well in your skills, and we're going to even award you for certain things. I have heard of loyalty programs in the insurance space, where we say that if you do not, for example, place a medical claim within a certain period, when you're renewing, I think there's a consideration to pay less of your premiums. I've had stuff like that. And this is really important for people. And it's things that we need to be thinking about. How to upskill your workforce. And that gives people the sense of competence. And number 4, it's the sense of progress. So people want to move from one place to the other. Progress could mean career, it could mean your family, it could mean so many other things. Moving from one place to, it could even mean owning a home. That could be progress, or even owning a car. What are we thinking in that space as insurance people, and even to those who we serve as our clients? What are we doing in terms of creating reward portfolios that speak to giving people that sense of progress? Are we really doing anything that will touch the heart and will make people want to stick with us? So, and the next one is the matters of the brain. I think this is pretty straightforward, because this is where we tend to focus more as employers, and even insurance included. So number one, in matters of the brain, we tend to focus on things that excite us. Money excites people. So when you increase people's salaries, we compete on pay range, we compete on pay scales, and that's why employees are always asking, oh, who is paying what? And if you are losing an employer from your business to another business, you want to know how much they were given as an additional pay pack. So it excites us. Status is the other thing. It's a thing about, okay, so now I am being paid so much money. Can I be able to move from one address to the other? Security. So now in these times of COVID, and even going forward, because disruption is not going to stop at COVID, as I said in very many of the other conversations I've had, COVID was an introduction into the disruptive world. But going into the future, we're going to see a lot more disruption coming. I'm not predicting doom, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of disruption coming. Now, giving people a sense of security is definitely an important agenda. We've seen a lot of employers releasing people. We've seen people taking pay cuts. We've seen people wanting even to drop some of the benefits and rewards that they're giving to employees. Is this the right time to do stuff like that? That's a very big question to answer. Hunger for more. You see, the brain, as human beings, we always want to get excited about what more can I achieve. So in terms of your reward agenda, you need to think through whether you have a package of rewards that addresses these 4 things. Now, moving forward, the employer game plan, therefore, should be looking to do what I call the balancing act. And in the balancing act, you need to balance the brain agenda and the heart, the matters of the heart. So the extrinsic and the intrinsic. So on the extrinsic side, which is the brain side, you need to think through things like bonus schemes, employee share ownership plans. And I'm very big on these share ownership plans because I keep saying that when you make people own what they're doing, you get their 100% commitment. But when you make them feel like they're just working for you and giving their energy to you, then they have zero commitment to you. They only do it because they're getting money out of it. Now, on the intrinsic side, this is where you have the biggest win as employers. If you can focus your rewards into allowing people to have more latitude to make decisions. For example, now that people have to work away from the office, to what extent are you allowing your line managers, for example, to negotiate with their employees on how they can work, how they can deliver their goals, how they can do their appraisals, and the flexibility around even using technology to help you achieve certain targets within your business? How are you speaking to your agents, insurance agents? I have had the 2 speakers ahead of me, I think, being questioned on matters of insurance agents. How are they working? What have we provided to them in terms of tools to work so that they're able to do their work properly? These are people who are coming into contact with so many of us Kenyans out here. And you know, in the very nature of insurance is a very relational type of business. So you need to talk to people, you need to meet people. So what are we doing as employers to make sure that our agents are protected and the customers as well feel protected? How about flexibility of our work schedule? So I know that in most insurance companies, we operate like banks. We hardly have a down moment. But this is a good time to start thinking how we up our game in terms of our digital, in terms of our technology, so that then even the production of paper, because I know we produce a lot of paperwork, that we reduce this and we can move a lot of the transactions that we are conducting online, so that we also protect the people who are working for us, but also the customers who are engaging with us. And then the last one on the intrinsic side is really providing those immense growth opportunities. So I keep saying, we need to do away completely with what we knew as the ladder of success. You know, like when you move from being an intern, you become maybe a graduate trainee, then you go to the next level, which is probably an assistant and then an officer level. We need to go away with those things and just make people know that, you know what, when you come to this place of work, you will become what you want to be. Now, really, the choice is yours. But we give you the tools, we give you the environment, and we give you everything that you need as an employer to make you realize your goals. So I hope that by having this conversation, we may not have achieved the agenda of giving you perfect solutions of what rewards to go and give to your employees, but we are hoping that we have opened a conversation that will help us as employers to start opening our minds to changing our policies, flexing our muscles a little bit and saying, you know what, we need to think outside the box, outside the what we knew as the benefits that we give to employees. Now expand benefits into rewards, and that will give you a better stake as you go forward. So thank you very much. I hope I kept into my 10 minutes time.
Thank you, Miriam. You did try to keep to the time. I'll request if there are any participants who have a question for Miriam, please use the raise hand function to raise your hand, and then I'll allow you to speak. You may also use the Q&A function. In the meantime, I have a few more questions for Chris and Mr. Raxit. If you may please answer this even as we wait. The first question is, Miss Judy Wambui is wondering if the pandemic prolongs, which is definitely not a prayer, what will the retirees receiving annuities from different insurance companies still receive as per agreement, or do we expect some sort of changes to the annuity prices? And what happens if, God forbid, an insurance company goes down? So I'll throw that to either Chris or Mr. Raxit to answer as we wait.
Yeah, sorry, can you see me? Yeah,
we can see you.
We can see you.
Yeah, all right, great. Yeah, I think it's a good question in terms of annuities for retirees. Yes, I think again, insurance companies, like I said, the regulator has required for a lot of info in terms of the capital requirements of insurance companies. So where annuities are priced, where annuities are payable, I think those will continue to be paid. In the unfortunate event that an insurance company goes under, I think we've got a lot of protection mechanisms as well, right? We've got the policyholder compensation fund. We've got different levies that all insurance companies contribute towards, so that in the unlikely event that that does happen, the regulator can access these funds and pay these individuals. So there are mechanisms in place, but again, we're in uncharted territory, right? At this stage, but annuitants, I think, will get paid their annuities as they come up for retirement.
Thank you for that. Let me read out another question. Miriam, Judy says, thank you for the talk. Then there's a question that, are there any changes on the Employment Act that touch on unconditional layoffs brought about by the COVID pandemic? Miriam?
Hello.
Hi. Are there any changes to the Employment Act that touched on unconstitutional layoffs brought about by the pandemic?
So, okay, so this is a different conversation, but I will address it. So first of all, the contract of employment is a legal document. So any changes made to that document that suggests that we are either going to lay off or deduct or pay people less or have people work away from home needs to be consented by both the employer and the employee. That is a standard rule in the space of employment. So there hasn't been any additional changes that have been made by the Employment Act, but even what is there already serves very well, because it does speak about in what circumstances we can change the employment, our employment relationship with our employees, and they have to be consensual. You cannot do it as an employer without engaging with your employee.
Okay. Thank you, Miriam, for that. Is there any other question? I see Alice Atamba has raised her hand. Alice, if you may just unmute your speaker and ask your question, and that will be the last question. Go ahead, Alice. Alice, can you hear us? All right. Seems we can't find Alice, so I think she can ask her question later. I'll then hand over to the
Can she type her question on the Q&A?
Yes, yes, that's also an option. She can type out her question in the Q&A. So I'll hand over to my colleague, Rahab. Rahab heads our insurance unit, and she'll just take us through a brief presentation on who NWealth Insurance Brokers is, and then we'll wrap it up. Welcome, Rahab.
Thank you, Bansi, for this opportunity. Okay, so NWealth Financial Services was incorporated in Kenya in 2011, and NWealth Insurance Brokers is a subsidiary of NWealth Financial Services Limited. We're in the business of insurance brokerage, and we are licensed by IRA. As NWealth Insurance Brokers, we combine our expertise, experience, and innovation to provide tailor-made insurance solutions to our clients. Our vision is to provide sustainable value creation in financial risk management, and our mission is to secure financial risk through innovation. Our values are empathy, passion, excellence, integrity, fairness, and creativity. Let me talk about our insurance solutions. We have the employees benefit insurance. We provide to our clients group life assurance, group medical insurance, group personal accident. We also provide property insurance in terms of motor, fire insurance, burglary, marine insurance. Liability, we cover trustee liability, employer's liability, WIBA, professional indemnity, public liability. And we also cover our retail clients with annuities, travel insurance, domestic package, individual medical insurance, and we also have our tailor-made product for the post-retirement, for the retirees, which is a post-retirement medical scheme called ANAYA. We also have, as value adds, we are providing free last expense on all our group life policies. We also provide training on financial wellness, and we also provide open emergency lines in case of anything happens to our clients, and we have a dedicated service team. Our promise during this COVID-19 season is to provide correspondence to our customers in all our interactions, and also to provide professional advice concerning insurance needs and requirements. We also provide insurance recommendations, solutions, and products that meet your unique needs as our clients. We ensure that our customers have all the information they require to make informed buying decisions. And we also preserve your confidentiality. We seek competitive quotations. And more so, we ensure that in case of a claim, your claim is sorted out promptly. We partner with some of the best insurance companies like Cannon and Prucare. In fact, if as a client you need to access Prucare, you can always talk to us, because we come in as an intermediary between now the insurance company and you as our client, where we advise you on how or the best product to take, especially now And in case of a claim, we assist you with, it is our duty to make sure that your claim is sorted on time and to provide advice. In case you want to contact us, you can get in touch with us. Our email is insurance@nwell.co.ke. Our lines are on the screen. You can get in touch with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rehab. We are very grateful for Soni, for Chris Ochola, for Miriam, for the wonderful presentations that you have shared, wealth of knowledge, which we believe is quite critical to enable our customers, our various stakeholders, navigate through effectively in this season of COVID-19. Together we are in this, and I know we are pulling through together, particularly if we share information that is relevant, that would help us to position our respective services, our products, that responds effectively to the situation that we are in. Our promise is to continue appraising all our clients as relevantly as possible by giving you information, and we remain at hand to support and walk through together as a team at NWealth. We have depth of commitment in every way to support you from a client service perspective. And should you have any query, again, please do get in touch with us from the various channels of communication that we have already shared. I know that we could be getting towards some countries are opening up, and we'll also be sharing with you a little bit of the schedule in the month of June, particularly from the continent of Africa. The next schedules webinars that will collaborate some other participants and panelists spread from the continent of Africa. And so for now, I want to then just hand over to Lydia, who can then just close it up. I do have a blessed week ahead, and keep safe. Thank you as well. Thank you.
Hello again. This is the third time you're seeing me, and I'm pretty sure by now, if you see me, all you see is talk time, and that is correct. I am back again to give you airtime. Now, the last question that I'm going to ask is, there is no right or wrong answer. It just depends on how fast you hit your raise hand button. So the question that I'm going to ask is, what do you like most about NWealth? What do you like most about NWealth? There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. You just need to raise your hand as fast as possible, as fast as you can.
Okay, Galaxy X5, Fidelis, Evans Kiptum, and Susan Jomba are the first four. If you may just unmute your speakers and go ahead and share your answer.
Okay, Evans here. I work in Camry, Welcome to Trust, and I like the services you offer in terms of financial advices, which it happened that you offered the training to us. It was nice.
Thank you, Evans. Galaxy?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yes.
Peter Jau from RDC scheme. The commitment of service delivery to its clients is what that was for.
Thank you.
Service provision.
Thank you, Peter. Susan?
Okay, I think I like the professionalism of the team in NWealth. And I also like the fact that you're so relevant in these current times in addressing the needs and just communication, what the market out there needs to know.
All right, thank you, Susan. And then finally, Fidelis.
Ms. Fidelis from Prudential Life Assurance. What I like mostly about NWealth is your focus on customer centricity. You realize with the low penetration of insurance, especially in Kenya and East Africa, that is a very key thing to focus on, especially to bring confidence in insurance as well.
All right. Thank you so much. Lydia, are those answers satisfactory to you?
Yes, they are quite satisfactory. So you will receive your talk time in a short while, but I need to have your numbers for that to be facilitated. We have realized that you can't do that through the chat box, so send it to the Q&A segment just right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Lydia. As she said, use the Q&A to just send your number and we'll send you your talk time. We thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. We will be sharing the presentation and the contact to the panelists. I see a few questions regarding that, so you'll get that within a day or two. You may feel free to continue the conversation on our social media handles as displayed on the screen, and we look forward to engaging with you next week during the next webinar. Immediately you exit this webinar, you will receive a questionnaire to give us feedback. Kindly do so. Give us feedback on areas of improvement, what we've done well, and even topics you want to hear next time. God bless you and have a great day. Thank you.